If you're feeling frozen right now, stuck at the edge of a decision, doubting yourself again, listen to me. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're not confused. You're just standing in a moment your nervous system was never taught to trust. And today, we're not fixing you. We're remembering you. So let's talk about the myth of clarity. You were sold a lie that certainty has to come before movement. We've been conditioned to believe we have to have the perfect plan, the backup plan, the 5-year plan before we're allowed to trust ourselves. But clarity doesn't actually come first. Movement comes first. Clarity follows. So, truth bomb. Perfectionism is fear with a prettier outfit. And every time you sit and spin, waiting for certainty, you're abandoning your power to the idea of getting it right. And right isn't actually the goal, aligned is. Waiting for clarity is often just perfectionism dressed up as spiritual wisdom. And real clarity comes through choosing, even if your voice shakes. You didn't come into this world doubting your instincts. You were trained out of them. You were praised for being agreeable. You were shamed for being too much, having too big of feelings. You were taught that approval was safer than authenticity. And you learned, if I trust myself, I'll be alone. If I trust them, I'll be loved, or at least accepted. And every time you chose approval over your own knowing, you chipped away at your self-trust. Here's the thing. Let's chat a little bit about downward causation, how everything in this entire universe is created, and then we can discuss how we're born and really grow or evolve. So when everything in this universe is created, you take universe or oneness, and it wants to experience itself. That's the desire, the experience to experience unconditional love. And so we have the beginning of individuality. And so you can imagine an upside down triangle. And in this triangle at the very top is oneness or bliss. And below that is supramental consciousness, which would be individuality. And within individuality is the archetypes, aspects of personality, not only the child, the prostitute, the saboteur, the victim, but we also have the politician, the princess, the artist. And so there are aspects of personality that kind of sum up a whole bunch of information. And then we have the monads, which are aspects of emotion that we've all agreed upon. He's an angry person. She's a happy person, full of joy, peaceful. So we have these monads, and those are within the realm of supramental consciousness or individuality. And you can think of individuality as like the drops of the ocean, and the ocean is oneness. As we continue to, or energy or vibration begins to slow even further and gets denser, we move into mental consciousness. And mental consciousness is ideas. It's the ego. And so ego is our identification with form, thought form, which includes an emotional form and physical form. So as soon as we begin to identify as a name and what that means, we have the creation of ego or personality. So within mental consciousness is ego, intellect, thoughts, ideas, beliefs. Those are all within mental consciousness. And you can feel it there. You can feel the barbs of somebody's negative thoughts. Hairs stand up on the back of your neck. You can then it densifies and we get into subtle consciousness. And subtle consciousness includes emotions, the chakras or the energy centers. It includes the meridians, and it includes memories. And so now we're getting into magnetic energy, and it's easier to feel. You can feel when you walk into a room right after someone's had a fight or when somebody's really angry or upset. You can also feel the energy of somebody with an open heart when you just like being around them. And so it's becoming more palpable. We can taste it. We can feel it. It's an energy we can sense easier. And then finally, energy collapses and we get physical form. And so you can think of it as moving from a cloud, and then we've got rain and then snow and then hail, and finally we have ice. And so to change the quality of form, we would need to go up and change the quality of the water. And so, and you go right up into archetypes and individuality, and we can really change up at the cloud. But for most of us, as we live in this world, we're always trying to heal or change form with form. So we don't like our body and we use physical experiences to change it. And we don't think about the fact that as we move through, it's a thought, then an emotion, then a form. A person cuts you off and you have the thought, what a dick. Then you have the emotion of irritation or anger. And then you have a physical experience. Maybe your heart beats faster, our blood pressure rises. And then we can even go into a full action, and then maybe you flip them the bird or speed up or whatever, hit your horn. And so thought, emotion, physical experience. And so when we want to change the physical experience, we need to work for longevity above physical. We need to go up. So the higher that we go up and then recollapse again, the longer lasting the changes and the more of an impact that change will have. And so we want to change our frequency at a higher speed or a higher rate. Now, when we go into birthing, so even think of everything as an idea comes through these, and then we birth and we start to grow. And we can think of evolving or growing through the energy centers of the chakras. So the first center, which is at the genitals, would be linked with infancy, with birth family, as well as safety and survival. Fight, flight, feast, fear, fornicate. Anything that's safety and survival of ourself as an individual, as well as a species, will all be within that first energy center. And then as we continue to grow, we explore more within each center. All 7 centers are activated right away, and they hold memories. And so within that is information that comes through. And the second center at the lower abdomen, at our sacrum, is linked with our reproductive organs. So now you can think of like gestation of a child. And so within there is playfulness, joy, creativity, and not just creativity of art, but it's creation of ourself. And so who am I? Who do I want to be? And often many of us abort ourselves at that space when we stop paying attention to who do I want to be, and we start paying more attention to who do you want me to be. And if we don't feel safety and survival beneath that, the foundation of the house, then it's hard for us to build on that and feel safe creating ourselves as we wish, no matter what other people are saying. As we continue to grow, so that's all really linked within childhood. And then as we continue to grow, we really start playing and activating into our third center, our willpower. And that links with a timeline of adolescence. And it's who am I and who am I not? Who am I within this world that I'm creating? It's our power source, and it's in our I do. So we move from I am safe, into the I feel, I'm in touch with myself, up into the I do, what am I, who am I and who am I not? And think of it in the physical, we're also linked with um, our digestion and our immune system. And so who am I and who am I not? Think of it with viruses. Who am I and who am I not when I'm digesting my food? What will I absorb and keep in me? And what will I pass through me? Who am I not? And so we see each of these centers show up in physical experience as well as in action, in our thoughts and in our emotions, in our beliefs. And so as we continue to grow, then we activate within our heart. And within our heart center is I love. And it's really about unconditional love. And so this really gets activated. We obviously are activating within all of these all the time, but we really start to explore this the first time we fall in love. We explore it at a completely different level when we have a child. And all of a sudden there's a life to put ahead of our own. And so the heart changes things. And so we start to have this experience, and we start to look at it through the eyes of compassion, of unconditional love, of empathy, and authenticity. And we start to hold ourselves in a different space. And then we continue to grow, and we move into the link. So think subtle consciousness. Below the bridge, the first three were all physical. And now we were starting to move into subtle, I love. And we're looking at the heart and opening and expanding. And now we start moving more even in towards the mental consciousness as we move into the realm of communication. And if we're supported from beneath, I feel safe to create who I am and to stand in that and allow myself to be who I am and allow you to be who you are, not tell you have to be like me, and vice versa. And then my heart opens and I can love you and see the love, the light in you, and recognize it from within myself. And then we move up. Now we're fully supported to speak with love and to speak with kindness. And the throat can open. And not only does the throat open, but so do the ears. So I can hear you, I can experience you, and I think it's beautiful. And so we have this completely different interaction with each other. We can hear beyond words. And so in coaching, we call it third level listening. And so you're listening beyond just what is being said. There's more there, more information coming in. And when we're speaking, it's the same. And our tone changes. And if our heart is closed, then our tongue is tensed and pushed against the roof of our mouth or our throat will tighten. And when our throat tightens and our tongue tenses, then our ears close. And so if we want to check, then we can soften our tongue off the roof of the mouth. So we'll take a pause here, pushing your tongue to the roof of your mouth, and just feel what that feels like. Push it all the way up to the roof of your mouth and all the way back to the back of your throat. And notice what that feels like in the sides of your neck. Notice what that feels like inside your ears. Notice what it feels like even in your chest. And then peel the tongue away from the roof of your mouth and feel your ears sink or open. Keep softening your tongue until the sides of your neck soften. Can you keep softening your tongue? Soften, soften all the way down. It connects to your heart. Keep going until you feel the release in your chest. Keep softening until you feel it release at the back of your heart between your shoulder blades. And now we're ready to feel, speak, hear at a completely different level. Now we're opening into a greater sense of communication. Now, as we continue to grow and we continue upward, we move into the sixth center, which links with the eyes, both the physical eyes and the eyes beyond the physical realm. So you might think of clairvoyance. And within that realm is also the ability to see the light in all of life around us, to see beyond just, that's a plant, but to see the life of the plant, the beauty of that, the intelligence and the wisdom that's within that plant, to see it the same in each other and in community and in life. And so we start linking from mental consciousness, I know, and we start moving up to, and I speak to, I see. And we're starting to talk about a deeper level of wisdom. And finally, we move up to the seventh, which is we come into really, I know, which is oneness of I am a spark of the divine and you are a spark of the divine and we are one. And we start moving into unity consciousness again. And so ideas come down through those centers, and then we grow, or once an idea is birthed or a person's birth, we grow up through those centers as well. And so every time that we choose someone else's approval over our own knowing, and we're chipping away, look at it from the centers instead. So if I don't feel safe in my environment, in my community, with my people, with my friends, with my family, then am I going to feel safe to have my own choices? Am I going to feel safe to say, even ordering a coffee? Oh, I want one of these. And then somebody's like, oh, that's gross. Like you eat that much sugar. And then all of a sudden you're doubting yourself and you change your order. These are all things that can happen very easily. You don't want to be shot down for the place you choose for dinner. So you say, oh, it doesn't matter to me, you choose. And so we don't explore with because as we grow, the second center moves from playfulness to sensuality, our enjoyment of life, of relationships, and the deepening. And so as all of these are active and explored, they keep maturing and they keep evolving. And all of a sudden we have all this wisdom and all this beauty within our own body, but we need the foundation first. And so what happens is when we don't feel safe, we keep looking for safety outside of ourselves. And often to get a sense of safety, we have to abandon ourselves. We have to leave who am I to get out there into the world of what do you think I should be? And we adjust what music we like, what food we like, what clothes we like to fit in or to be accepted at the very bare minimum so that we can be in part of this world and feel a sense of safety. And the problem with it is every time we do that, it's like a version of prostitution. We sell ourselves and we abandon ourselves to do that. And so we have to come back inward to explore safety within our own body, to sit within our own physical experience of our emotions, of the discomfort of feeling, will they like me? Will I fail? To sit in the discomfort of heartache, of betrayal, of grief, and to just sit in those emotions. And the thing is every time we sit in those emotions without an expectation or a judgment of them, this is the experience of grief. It is not good or bad, it's an experience. And as I sit in this grief and I don't push it away or try to change it or compartmentalize it, but I just let it be there and flow. So I'm not creating a story as to why I feel grief and all the rest. Thoughts are not involved. I'm just sitting there with the experience of grief. What is its texture? What is its temperature? Where do I feel it in my body? What is the sensations that I feel? And we experience it as the I am, because that is really the key of all of it is you are the one experiencing these things. You are not grief. You are the one experiencing grief. You are not betrayal. You're not abandonment. You're not rejection. You're the one experiencing those things. And so the more that we can come inside and we can start rebuilding our sense of safety by being present with ourselves, the more that we do that, the more we can start to create, oh, who am I? What do I like? For the longest time, I couldn't have even told you what breakfast food I liked. I had been so well trained to like what other people liked just to fit in or to be accepted, absolute terrifying fear of being completely rejected. And it's fair, I had been rejected lots. That had been an experience I'd had. But instead of continuing to learn how to find my own people, like most people, I just adapted. I adapted to my surroundings. And so all of a sudden, I remember I was watching Runaway Bride with Julia Roberts, and she was testing all of the different eggs to find out what egg she liked, because every single time she'd been with somebody, her favorite thing was exactly what they liked. And as I was watching that movie, I was like, oh God. And all of a sudden I realized I had done that a lot, not just in romantic relationships, but in friendships. And all of a sudden I had to go on this deep dive into, what do I like? What kind of eggs do I like? What do I like to drink? What do I not like to drink? How do I like my coffee? Do I actually like sweets? Do I actually like this kind of chocolate? Or am I saying those things because I think I'm supposed to? And it became this incredible journey of discovering myself, not knowing at that time of how I was moving through that in my own body, to give myself the quiet, the time to explore these things without sharing necessarily with everybody else around me so that they gave their input. So I began the exploration of like, what kind of eggs do I like, by trying all different eggs until I was like, no, I really like omelets. And I really like scrambles. I actually don't mind poached eggs. Like, but they became this really fascinating things. I'm really grossed out by uncooked egg whites. Really grossed out. And so if you love them, I love that for you. I do not love it for me. And I had to go through that was okay for other people to like that. Once I discovered what I like and don't like, I still also needed to really explore and understand that whatever you like is perfect for you. And to hold that space for each of us in a completely different way than many of us were taught. And so to not give up that identity, to not give up who I am, and to not try and get other people to agree with me, to understand that each of us has our own unique exploration of this world. And it's when we fall in love with our life, when we can look at the beauty of imperfection and we can explore it and really see it. That is when creation gets to experience itself. Think about that. Creation is experiencing itself through your eyes, through your perception. And when we abandon that, creation doesn't get to experience itself. There's just confusion and noise. And so when we're present with ourselves, with our experience, and we can see the beauty in life all around us in our imperfections that are so beautifully perfect, perfectly imperfect. And it's in that timing that all of a sudden creation gets its dream, which is to experience itself, to experience unconditional love. And that's our purpose. And that's the thing is none of this is about anything particular. It's about how far we have abandoned ourselves without even realizing it. And self-doubt isn't your truth. It's your trauma response. And once we recognize that, all of a sudden it's so much easier to just start letting it go. There's nothing you need to do, just let it go. So let's talk about how self-trust is a practice and not a personality trait. It's not like we wake up confident. We build it one tiny choice at a time. Self-trust isn't lightning, it's a muscle. And you practice trusting yourself in tiny little ways first until your nervous system remembers that you are safe to lead yourself. So here's my challenge to you. You can start by choosing your meal without asking anyone's opinion. Not what are you going to get? Don't even ask them what they're going to get. To say no without over explaining or justifying yourself. To rest when you're tired, even if the dishes are dirty, even if the kitchen's still not fully cleaned up. Could you just rest even for 5 minutes? You don't rebuild trust by achieving it. You rebuild it by choosing loyalty to yourself over and over and over again, even when it feels awkward. So let's try a mantra. I love mantras and I love intentions. And so the mantra is, I trust myself even in the messy middle. Trust myself even in the messy middle. Now, if that's hard because you have so little trust in yourself right now, start changing some words and use I choose. So this is where we marry our voice with our willpower. And we meet our heart in the middle with a little bit of love. And so instead of I trust myself even in the messy middle, we can say, I choose to trust myself even in the messy middle. I choose to trust myself even in the messy middle. And just feel that in your body. And one of those is going to feel a little bit more powerful, a little bit stronger, a little more grounded. Maybe you're going to soften and open rather than contract and pull inward. And just notice what that feels like. Does it feel better to say, I choose to trust myself even in the messy middle? Or does it feel better just to say, I trust myself even in the messy middle? And notice what one works right for you. And stop waiting for proof. Just move. And the proof will meet you there. So today, I love always giving tools, and today I want to do some somatic tools to reconnect you with your own inner knowing. So when the mind spirals, the body always knows. So let's work with the system and not against it. And one of the best ways to get back in touch with our body is through our breath. And it's because our breath is the linking system that links physical, subtle, and mental. And one of the great breaths that we can use for this to come back in is to use a relaxation breath, or what we would call a cortisol breath, where we inhale through our nose for about 4 counts or 4 heartbeats. And then we hold at the top. And some people want to expand for even as much as 7, depends on where you're at. Now, here's the thing. When we are learning to come back into our breath, it is not abnormal for that to be extremely difficult. I used to have the hardest time doing a simple box breath. 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out, hold for 4. It was like my heart rate would go off the charts. And so there's some things that we can do to help support this. We can feel into our body first. So feeling into the backs of your thighs, feeling into your seat, feeling into the soles of your feet, noticing your buttocks and your pelvic floor. And so that might feel like you need to soften your buttocks, soften the pelvic floor, soften your thighs, your inner thighs, your low abdomen. So letting everything kind of melt a little first. And it also might help if you lengthen your neck by drawing your chin a little towards your throat. The reason for this protective measure to soften the throat, to protect it, so it feels like we can breathe slower. The idea is to move us into parasympathetic, which is rest and digest and reset. And so then as we kind of find our way into our bodies again, we can start to link. So then we can inhale through the nose for 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, inhale through the nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, inhaling through the nose for 4 counts. Pause. Exhale for 8. And just continuing that breath on your own rhythm to start coming into the stillness, into the quiet of your body. This is a beautiful breath to practice when we're laying down and going to sleep at night. And we can let our hands rest on our belly so that we're breathing into our hands to let them expand. And then letting the hands gently fall back down with the belly as we release the breath. If you find it hard to start with a 4-8 count, then you can always start with inhale for 2, pause for 2, exhale for 4, work it up to 3, 3, 6, and then finally 4, 4, 8. And you can even get it longer than that. And so finding the breath, but starting where we're at, allows us to not feel like we're failing. And instead, we're starting to come back. Where are we at today? So if instead we're curious, where's my inhale at? And it might be easier for you to inhale than it is to exhale, to receive as opposed to give, especially if you have a tendency to hold your breath. And so notice where you need to start at to reset your self-trust, to recreate that intimacy within yourself so that it's easier to let the breath go. And then from there, we can start to settle back in and start to lengthen the breath back out. But to do the breath without any judgment, to meet us at where we're at, understanding that this moment is exactly what it's meant to be. Otherwise, it would be different, and move from here. And as you're releasing those breaths, you can even say to yourself, I am safe to choose. Now, I love giving you guys journal prompts. And part of that is because I think it's important for us to have cues that help us just think, to expand and open the mind. So, the journal prompt I want to give today is, if I wasn't afraid, what would I already know? If I wasn't afraid, what would I already know? And so the beautiful thing about journaling is when we start writing, and we just write, it could be, I don't know anything. I have no idea what this is about. We could go through this whole thing. But once we start writing, what happens is the part of our brain that argues with us, that part of mind, shuts off as we're writing. And so by starting that journaling prompt when we're writing, we can start to let that voice go and get into it. And sometimes after maybe a page or two, all of a sudden we'll start getting answers. From a somatic, we can ask that question when we're out in nature. Mind's going to want to chatter, and you just keep letting the mind chatter while you take in the green of the trees, the smell of the air. We just keep coming back into the present. Mind pulls us out, back into the present. Mind pulls us out, back to the present. And as we keep coming back into the present, we can soften and open to the world around us and start getting some answers. And our body can give us cues as well. So from a somatic point of view, the cueing from your body would be, does the thought feel expansive, light, and open? You're moving towards truth. Or is it constrictive, tight, and heavy, which would mean we're probably coming from a lie, which would be a fear or anger, resentment or doubt. So the even if mindset, instead of what if I fail, what if we shifted our language to be, even if I fail, will I still honor my truth? Even if I fail, will I still honor my truth? And I think that's important. I even have it tattooed on my ankle. What if I fail? Oh, but my darling, what if you fly? And I had that tattooed on my foot and ankle so that I could remind myself, because I was always so worried. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? And by tattooing it there, every time I would sit on my meditation mat or I would be working out or doing yoga, it would be there reminding me, but what if you fly? So in this case, what if we just reset it and we accept that inevitably there will be things that we do fail at, but it's kind of like failing forward. So even if I do fail, will I still honor my truth? And that helps us come back into alignment, to be present with our values, to be present with who we truly are as we start exploring that. And knowing that as you explore that, and we start rebirthing ourselves and we explore it, and like, who am I? Do I like that kind of music? I do. Sometimes I'm moody. Sometimes I like this. Sometimes I like that. Sometimes it evolves and changes based on where I'm at in my life. So allow yourself to shift, to pivot, to change. Allow yourself that maybe as you're exploring, you're going to be like, oh, I do like, I don't know, scrambled eggs. But maybe in a year from now or a month from now, maybe they're not really your jam anymore and you would rather an omelet. And allow those shifts to happen, to explore, like, what do I feel like I want today? When you're in a restaurant, is it reading a menu and just leaning into each of them? The mind's going to say, oh, I should eat this and this is why. But what if we just settled into it? Does that feel like it's good for me? Not my mouth, not my taste buds. I never want to let my senses make my decisions for me. They're like gateways to the outer world. But what does it feel like? Where do I feel expansive and where do I feel contracted? And explore that, play with that. You don't need exterior tools. Everything you need is within you. Freedom isn't really never failing or falling. It's staying loyal to yourself, even when you wobble. So here's the thing. You don't need a crystal ball or a pendulum. You don't need a spreadsheet. You don't need anyone else's permission. You need one thing, and that's self-loyalty. Choose loyalty to your truth over loyalty to your fear. Choose presence over performance. Choose messy movement over perfect paralysis. Because here's the real flex. You're not confused. You're remembering. You're not lost. You're ready. So drop an I choose myself if you're reclaiming your knowing today. And grab the free resource in the notes where I have a future self visualization for free. You can join the Awakening Circle, our soul-minded Facebook group that's private. And as always, I ask that you like, comment, and subscribe if this called your soul home. And tag a sister who's tired of waiting for permission. You're not here to stay stuck. You're here to become sovereign. I see the light in you, and it is freaking brilliant. I want you to see it too. Until next time, brightest of blessings.